Okay, I've had some people ask me if I could make a voice annotated game, and well, here is one. This is a game that I played against Ripka, a chess engine, a couple of days ago. I was white, and the first thing you have to ask yourself when you play a computer, and this engine was rated way over 2700, so it was very strong. Anyway, so you have to ask yourself, what exactly are you playing for? That is, are you playing for a draw, or are you actually trying to win? But in this game I was just trying to make a draw, just to play for a draw. And I chose an opening which I thought was not unusual in theory, but I hardly ever play these kind of lines or openings, and I wasn't actually familiar with the opening, but still I played according to theory without even knowing it. So let's take a look at it. That was white. I play knight f3, and knight f3 has, I believe, some kind of reputation of being quite drawish. It doesn't really make any. It doesn't really. I mean, you don't push any pawns in the center. No c4, d4, e4, anything like that. Just an innocent-looking knight move to f3, d5. d4, knight f6, g3, c6, bishop g2. This is called the Slav defense. Bishop f5, castles, h6, b3, still within book, e6, bishop e2. The good thing about e6 is that it's pretty much like the some Caro-Kann variations of Blade, where the bishop comes out before the pawn chain closes off, so to speak. That's always a good idea. Also, of course, in the Caro-Kann, white usually plays bishop d3 and those, but then of course that bishop on f5 would be on h7 and be traded off with the bishop on d3. Knight b to d7, knight b to d2, bishop e7, c4, castles, rook c1. Queen a5, also within theory. I play a3. Of course, black can't take the pawn on a3, because if it takes, I can play rook e1, and the bishop on a3 will be lost. Rook f d8, rook e1, b5. And since I was playing for a draw, I simply played c5, and that pretty much closes off the queen side forever, which the computer realized, if you can call it that, call it that, you know. And here I play knight to h4 with the idea of playing f4 and close the center even more here on the e5 square, a5. And here is an important moment to keep in mind. For example, if I would play a4 here, he could take, and when I take back, the b5 would be open. And if he plays a4 and I take, then he can take back, and the b5 will also be open. So it's very important to keep these two pawns where they are. I've done that mistake many times and actually pushed, for example, b4, and when he takes, the a5 will be open, and so on and so on. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind when playing a computer and when you're trying to close things off. Back to f3. And here we can start to see that the computer doesn't really make any good moves, because there are no good moves in a position like this. Knight h4, and here we just trade off. Okay, here it is. Here's a good moment to talk a little bit about those pawns. He played a4, and anybody can see, of course, that if I take on a4, the a5 would be pretty much, or actually the b file will be open. But of course, if it takes with the rook, then that pawn, of course, it's not really a trap, because bishop guards. But in any case, it's a very bad idea to take on a4, or just let him take on a4. So for that reason I played a b4, just to keep those pawns, you know, intact, the pawn chain intact, and the queen side completely closed. Knight f8. takes h5, just a trade, and I come back to f3, and now he comes back to f6, and I play queen e2. I didn't want to trade because if I take the bishop, I mean, this is so typical computers, because if I would take here on e4, then after d takes e4, my knight on f3 has to move, and when he moves to say d2, then he can play f5, and also of course this file would be open, and he could play something like, you know, e5 or just anything to open up in the center. So I didn't do that, so I play queen e2, and here it just takes, and I'll take back, and there's no change in the center here, as we can see. e5 is well protected, he can't really do anything. Knight d7, trying to come back to e4, potentially. Bishop c3, just making moves. And here of course I saw that Ripka was probably trying to open up the h file, so I put my rook on g file with the idea of maybe playing a move like g4, but that wasn't really my idea. And now I start moving my king away from the action, so to speak, probably to the queen side, because this side is just, like I said, completely closed, and also the safest way for the king. Rook h1, not really accomplishing anything from either side. And now my king is on the queen side, which is definitely the safest place on the board for my king. And here we can, I mean, the rest of the moves are just completely ridiculous. 116 moves, so let's just quickly look at that. I mean, this is just totally unnecessary. Now it's move 105, and here on move 116 it's a draw. So again, if you want to play against a strong computer, and you know that you don't really have much of a chance to win, of course there's always a chance, but I mean it's a pretty slim chance. And if you want to get your rating up a little bit or something and draw the computer, then the best thing you can do is just simply close things off, just like I did here. You can see my pawn chain like this. Okay, that was all I had to say about this game, and maybe I'll return some other time and talk about another game. Thank you.